Last month we were sitting at $292,670, and stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to share one major update in the entire portfolio, so you'll want to stick around and not miss out on that. So when I checked a few days ago, we were sitting at over $300,000, and I was really hoping to open up this video by saying that we had broken a new milestone on our journey to make it to $500,000. Welcome to portfolio update number 6 in my monthly series where I share all the other accounts in the portfolio. The channel was started in order to share my journey at the age of 50, growing my Tfsa from zero to maxing this account out. Guess what? Yep, the account is growing again. Today we're sitting at $296,878. That's the nature of the markets. They go up and down. And of course we can see on the chart over the last year and a bit that I've been investing, there's definitely ups and downs. That's all pretty normal. I'm getting quite used to that, so it doesn't really bother me. In fact, I see it as a bit of an opportunity as I'm dollar cost averaging and putting money into the accounts. It can only go up from there. Today we're using Passive in order to show everything about the portfolio. It is the app that I use tracking everything from A to Z. We're going to go through each account, break them down, see what's going on in each one of them. Now, one thing I want to point out about Passive is it's a fantastic tool, but I have had some issues with it recently where it wasn't tracking the amount of money that I was depositing into the account, so it threw some of the metrics off. Recently, I've been dealing with Passive. It seems they've actually rectified the issue, which is fantastic. But in order for me to move on from the issues they had, I had to disconnect my accounts. So unfortunately, all the information that had been tracked up till the last video is going to be incorrect. So we're going to continue to use it, but we will see some discrepancies from the last video. All right, so we're going to look at the metrics all time for all of the entire portfolio. We can see that the net contributions to the account were $223,000. And as I said, we're sitting at just under $300,000. So we've grown this count quite significantly. And I'm pretty proud of that. And I can't wait to see it grow even more over time. As you can see, we've been making contributions every month. Of course, that's happening in the Tfsa. So if you want to check that out, you need to check that video series out. The rate of return minus 15%. As I said, that's not correct because I had to disconnect the account. Hopefully that will eventually correct itself. The investment growth, $77,000. So that's exactly how much growth we've seen in this account. That first 100,000, definitely the hardest. After that, things continue to grow. The average amount of dividends we're getting around $652 a month. So not too shabby if you were to think about perhaps some expenses in retirement that you wanted to earn. Now keep in mind, I really started late in life. I mean, that's the reason I started the channel, is I wanted to be able to share with you guys my experiences and share what I did in the past so that you don't make those same mistakes. If you're a viewer of this channel and you're really young, starting off simple, making even $5 a week or $100 a month, just use a compound calculator and you're going to see how much this will grow and how much dividends you'll actually end up with when you become my age and retire. Of course, we're saving on fees in general because the majority of the accounts we're using are held with Wealthsimple and they don't charge any fees to trade. So it's a great platform if you're a brand new beginner. I know that there are some people out there that are more advanced than I am and use other platforms and don't necessarily like Wealthsimple, and that's completely fine. But as a beginner to another beginner, I would suggest that starting with Wealthsimple is a good place to be. And then finally, we have the goal that I've set. The goal here is to reach $500,000. So I'm 51 today. I should retire in about 9 years. And so I've set that goal for $500,000. Now, I have a pension, and most of this money here is more towards my wife because she doesn't have one. And of course, we realized late in life that we had missed out on so much investing time. And it actually breaks my heart to think that that happened, but we're correcting that now and moving forward. So that target is the target I've set. Now, the great thing is that we've been growing quite quickly with this account. That first $100,000 that you're going to have to get invested to get yourself going is definitely the hardest part. And after that $100,000, the snowball effect really takes off, and I can actually see that happening. So I'm continuing to invest into our accounts and watching those accounts grow, and the total dividends that we've received over time, we'll share that at the end of the video. All right, so the first account we're going to start with is my Spousal account. If you don't know what that is, it's one where I make the contributions and then it becomes my wife's money and she withdraws that later in life. So I get the tax credit now. All right, so looking on the screen here, we have an asset allocation setup. The asset allocation is just simply a percentage of each security that I've preset and I want to attain and achieve. It's sitting at 79% accuracy. Now you're asking yourself, why is it not completely accurate? Yes, ideally I'd like to see that over 90%. But here's the thing, the focus of the channel, if you remember, is me building that Tfsa. So we're sitting at 79% accuracy in the spousal account. Currently we have Canadian funds of $7.72 and US of 36.63, pardon me. That money is sitting there to be reinvested. Now, one of the downsides of Questrade is that they do charge a fee every time you make a trade, unless you're investing in an ETF. Now, the majority of what I invest in is in ETFs, but I do have a lot of other single stock positions. So rather than have this money invested with a $5 fee every time, I let some of that cash build up until I decide what I want to do with it. The total value of this account sitting at $78,952. So it's steadily growing as well. And we can see here that because there's some cash sitting in there, Passive is recommending what we do with it. Another great feature of Passive. So it's suggesting that we buy one share of QQQY. Now, I did do a video on QQQY and I'm a little hesitant to invest in that right now. So for now, I'm just going to let that money sit there and I'm going to decide what to do with it, because some of the distributions that are going to get paid right here at the end of the month and then into the first week of November. And when we have a bit more money built up, then we'll invest it in some other things. And then we're going to jump over to the activity tracker so we can see where our money went in the past month. All right, looking at the month of October in the Spousal account, we can see that we didn't have any net contributions, so nothing was contributed to that account. It says that the net change in the account was minus $751. That's not obviously correct because, as I said, I had to actually disconnect this account. The rate of return says it's 0.91%. I would suggest it's actually a little higher than that, so hopefully over time as we continue on with Passive, those things will self-correct themselves. The average dividend in the account is correct. It's sitting at $266, so not bad. A lot of the things I'm invested in don't give monthly distributions. Now, when I retire, that's definitely something that I'm going to look at. If you're a lot younger and you're married or have a spouse and you have one of these spousal accounts, maybe you want to have more growth in your account and less dividends. So it could look something similar to mine. And of course, over time, those will continue to grow. Now, this account is held with Questrade. Now, I only have the one account with Questrade, but I do get a great benefit from holding it with Questrade, and that's the fact that we have Passive for free. Now, Passive normally costs $99, and it is a great tool. If you want to get started with it, you can look in the video description below, and if you use the link, you're going to save some money to get yourself started using Passive as well. All right, in the activity tracker, we're going to go over what's been happening over the last month. For the most part, it's all dividends. I'll quickly run through them and then jump on to the next account. So VNQ paid out $244. Coke, which is one of my bigger positions, paid out $11.16. VOO, it is definitely the biggest position I have. It's the S&P 500, and it focuses on the top 500 companies in the United States. It paid out $49.16. Now, VOO is one of the most expensive positions that I own. It's about $500 a share, so that money is not going to be dripped back in through the Questrade account because it's only a fractional purchase and Questrade doesn't allow for that. So when that money comes into the account, I let it pile up and then I'll invest it in something else. So we had HYLD.U pay out 43 cents. We had HYLD in Canadian funds pay out 51.34. VRE 345, REI 768. QQQY, you can see it's set on reinvestment. So there are some securities that I have in Questrade that I have set up, and you have to allocate that with Questrade. So you call them up or email them or text them and say, hey, I want these ones to be reinvested as they come in. The ones that I'm choosing are ones that the distributions equal the cost of another share, and that way it's reinvested, and that way I don't get charged any of those fees, which is $5. All right, so we had the QQQY payout 51.83. That was the last big payment. The rest of them are going to be smaller, as you can see here at 9.32 because they're weekly now. Paid out 6.06. And then with the money that was brought into the account, like I said, that sits there, I bought one share of AVDV, I bought one share of QQQY, and finally I bought a few shares of XEQT. That's the all-in-one fund. You can see that was $165. So that was, I think, about 5 shares in total. And lastly, we had another QQQY payout twice over. You can see they're smaller amounts, the weekly payout. Total net contributions to the account are $63,719. We've been contributing every single month, as you can see by the contribution streak. The net change in the account is $23,000. So the entire time I've been investing, since April of 2023, this account has grown $23,000. The rate of return on the account is 17.63%. That's all-time returns. The investment growth is $15,397. The average monthly income sits at $252. And this bar graph again breaks down where all of that comes from. And if you want to know what it is, you can break it down by clicking on each one. Then we can see that over time, this is just steadily increasing and growing in each position. And of course, estimated savings are $715. And the total dividend income on this account since its inception is $4,695. All right, so next on the list is my Tfsa and my RRSP. And as you know, my Tfsa is the star of the show. It's the reason I started my channel, so you could watch me grow it from nothing to maxing it out and all the bumps along the way sort of deal. I wanted to be able to show other people that if I can do it at the age of 50, you can do it at absolutely any age. Now, those are the main part of my channel, so you'll have to go over and watch those videos. All right, next is my kids' Tfsa. If you have kids and you want to teach them about finance, I think it's a great idea. That's what I thought. You know, my kids, they're 10 and 11 years old, and I felt it was important to introduce them to these ideas because you remember what I said, I made these mistakes over a long period of time. I basically didn't know any of this stuff until I turned 50. Now imagine if I had started when I was their age. So I want to start teaching them the principles, and we're using my wife's Tfsa for now. But as I mentioned in the last video, I've been doing some research on accounts that are trust accounts for the kids. Now I'm a little hesitant on it, and I asked for comments in the last video if you have one or you have some interest in it or you know something about it, to leave me a comment and tell me the pros and cons about them. One of the cons that I'm hearing is that you kind of lose a little bit of control once they turn 18. Now they would be adults, so in theory it would be their money and they can do whatever they want with it. And so I guess my hesitation could be settled by simply saying that by then, hopefully we'll have taught them a good foundation when it comes to finances, and they won't just go and use all that money, you know, for things that would not necessarily be important for them at the time, whether they're going to school or they need an apartment or whatever the case may be. Now we do have an RESP as well, and that is in the main videos that I shoot. And we've obviously been saving money up for that, for them to go to school. So this is in addition to that, teaching them that they have money that they need to use for their everyday expenses, money that they need to save. So they also have a high interest savings account. And finally, that they have an investing account that they put 20% of money into. And of course, the way right now that they're earning some of that money is through their allowance. And with all the pop bottles that we have, they come with me and they return them, and then we split that money up. And then they have to figure out how much 20, 30, and 50% is, and then divvy that money up. So looking at their account, it's 90%, 98% accurate right now. There's only 3 cents in the account. Now, right now, we're investing every week in this account. So they have their money that they put into it, but we've been putting in money in every week as well. And I've been adding $1 to that every single month. And for the 4 weeks in the month, it gets added. So this week it's $22 a week. Next month it'll be $23. And I'm looking to max that out around $25 in the future, and we'll see where that goes. So the account's sitting at $1,856, and let's go break it down and see how it's performing. All right, so looking at the month of October, we made contributions of $89 to the account. We've been contributing every month. We can see that by the contribution streak. The net change in the account's $121. The rate of return over the last month, this is only the last month, is 3.85%. So I guess if you equated it to inflation, it's about 1 and a bit percent higher than inflation if you consider it at 2%. The investment growth is $32 just over the last month. The average monthly dividends on the account are $3, and of course that's going to continue to grow. If we look back in the beginning, it was obviously a lot less than that, sitting around $1, but we're actually getting $3 an hour a month. And the fees and commissions are 0 because we're using Wealthsimple that doesn't have any commissions. And lastly, the dividend income for the month, again, $3. All right, so look at the all-time returns on this particular account. So we can see the net contributions in total were $1,147. It's saying our contribution streak was only the last 2 months, but there was a period of time where it was contributing, but passive wasn't registering it. So unfortunately, that's not accurate. Net change, $1,378. Rate of return, total return on the account, 30.77%, with an investment growth of $381. Not bad for a small amount. I guess what I'm trying to show here is that you don't need to have big contributions. You know, if you watch my Tfsa videos, you'll see how much money I'm contributing, which is quite a bit more significantly more than this. But if you don't have that kind of money and you're starting out with a very simple account, as I said, you could do $1, you could do $5, $20, $25, whatever it needs to be, and force yourself to grow that as your wage increases, or you can find ways to budget a little bit better and invest for the future, because this is going to be your retirement fund. That's the whole idea here. So we have an average dividends of $3 per month, no fees or commissions, and we can see here by the nice graph where all the money's coming from the dividends over the all-time returns of this account, which you can see was opened in May of 2023. But I didn't really start making any real contributions to it till sometime in this year. And the total dividends for this account are $52. All right, or my wife's RRSP, it's sitting at 84% accuracy on the asset allocation. There's only $6 cents in US funds and 1 cent in Canadian funds. Again, we're not making any contributions to this one. The total net value of the account is $154,539. All right, folks, I've talked a lot about Wealthsimple because it's the main platform that I use, and I really like it. It's very simple. For a beginner like me, it was the easiest place to go because it brings so many things together in one place. We have moved a lot of my banking over there. I did a video on, changing from the big banks over to Wealthsimple, and we are going to be making some other changes to our banking in the future to step away from the big banks, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to get started with Wealthsimple and support the channel at the same time, look in the video description below because I have a link. But by using the link, you're going to get $25 in your account once you open it up, and I get a little kickback, which is how you end up supporting me and the work that I've done on the channel if you find it useful. And let's jump over to the activity tracker and see what's going on over there. The all-time net contributions to my wife's RRSP are $132,005. It says that we haven't been contributing. The net change is $154,539. The rate of return says it's minus 30%. That is completely wrong. As I said, we disconnected the account, so we'll have to wait for that to change. The investment growth, $22,534. The average monthly dividend income is $265. Of course, that's continuing to slowly grow over time. And right now, it's basically set on drip, so we're not making contributions. So those drip is what's actually increasing the dividend income and the overall portfolio. The total income so far is $5,046 in dividends. All right, quick overview of what's going on in the account since the beginning of the month. We had the Coke reinvestment. We had VU payout, $103.77. Now, the beauty of Wealthsimple is, unlike questrade, where I can't make fractional purchases, I can with Wealthsimple, and that $103 was reinvested back into VU, growing my position there. Coke paid out $42.52, which was the reinvestment you saw at the beginning of the page. For some reason, they're out of order. It must be a timing thing when they come in. SCHD had paid out on the previous month, and you can see the reinvestment there. TELUS paid out $45.59, which was then reinvested back in. That increases my position by a share and a bit each month. Then YTSL paid out $69.48, again reinvested. CNQ paid out $10.61. HYLD.U $11.65. Again, QQQY is paying on those weekly distributions right now. They stopped the monthly ones, so there's going to be several of them in here. $22.45, HYLD at $31.48, VRE at $1.11, REI $20.88, and of course, there we go. There's all the reinvestments right back into the account. And QQQY at $4.11, SRU.UN at $3.32, Plaza at $1.15. There you go, all reinvested. And right back to QQQY at $3.32, again, reinvested back into the account. So at the beginning of the video, I told you that I had made some pretty big change to our portfolio. Wealthsimple had sent me an email recently, which I talked about in my last video, and they introduced the idea of a spousal RRSP. And so I went ahead and I opened that account up and I've made some contributions to it. You can see here that I don't have an asset allocation set up right now. I do have $50 in the account. And I've done an additional $50 ad. I was testing out the money movement from various accounts that I have to make the deposits into this account. So moving forward, stay tuned for the next portfolio update, because then we're going to introduce some positions and an asset allocation in here. And I haven't really decided what it's going to be just yet, but it's going to be something probably a little different than everything else that I've been doing. So stay tuned for that. I told you that I would share the entire amount of dividends that I've earned in the entire portfolio. So here we are in my spreadsheet that I started to track things before I discovered passive. And this is the most accurate and up-to-date information that I have. And as I said, because I disconnected from passive, there's going to be a lag in it actually tracking everything. So the total amount of dividends that I've earned in this account are $15,530. Currently, that's averaging about $1,294. So let's break that down a little bit on a day-to-day or a monthly basis. So when you think about your monthly expenses, $1,294 is fairly significant. Now, thinking about this fast forward to retirement, you're going to be drawing this money out. So the idea here is that maintaining the principal amount with some of the dividends being paid back out, you're going to be able to use that money. And I would suggest, keep in mind, we only have just under $300,000 in the portfolio. We're making about $1,294 in dividends. Now, some people prescribe to the idea of just using covered calls to make that monthly distribution. But I think I'm demonstrating that if you invest in some value or growth, I think I'm more focused on growth than anything, that your account will continue to grow and it's going to compound and continue compounding. Now, imagine this 9 years from now when I'm ready to retire. We'll be able to draw this money out on a regular basis while the account continues to grow. I think that would be the overall objective. So again, we've got $15,530 in dividends earned with an average of $1,294. Now, if you're just getting started with your investing journey and you're looking for simplicity to get started, you should watch this video right here.